What happens when a dinner party takes a steamy turn? One woman, two men, and a night where boundaries blur. But who's really in control? The tension is electric, and the surprises don't stop there. Want to see how far it goes? Like and subscribe for more. The plates were still on the table, yet none of us had shifted for a while. I leaned back, holding my wineglass, observing the way Mark and Bill looked at me. Not just politely, not just with friendliness. That gaze had shifted somewhere between the second bottle and the third compliment. You know, Bill said, stretching a bit too casually, it's kind of crazy that a woman like you is living here by herself. Mark nodded, swirling the last of his drink. Honestly, you handled that whole move better than most guys I know, and even cooked dinner. I mean, seriously, what can't you do? I grinned slowly. Let them look. I wanted them to. Plenty, I said, standing and reaching for their plates. My shirt stretched just enough for both of them to notice. I didn't bother adjusting it. But I'm working on that. Mark let out a low chuckle, his eyes following me. No way someone let you go. You must have walked. I didn't reply, just turned my back and carried the plates to the kitchen, letting my hips sway more than usual. I could feel their stares warming the room. When I came back, I didn't sit. I leaned against the doorway, wineglass still in hand, observing them like I was deciding which of them would crack first. I'll be honest, I said. It's been a while since I've had two men sitting at my table making me feel this noticed. Then someone's been making some serious mistakes, Bill said. Big ones, Mark added. I took a long sip, feeling my pulse rise. It wasn't just the wine. It was how they were leaning in now, as though I had cracked a door they'd been waiting to go through. Maybe I was waiting for the right pair, I said. You know, the kind that works well together. That made them both pause. Bill leaned back slightly, but his eyes stayed fixed on mine. Mark set his glass down with a soft clink, a slow grin tugging at the corner of his mouth. Their silence said it all. They weren't backing down. They were waiting. I pushed off the wall and moved toward them, letting each step draw the moment out. I stopped between them, my fingers brushing the back of Mark's neck as I passed. He didn't flinch, just exhaled like I'd taken something from him. Then I turned to Bill, closer than necessary. You two want dessert? I asked, my voice low. Or are you full? Bill's gaze dropped to my lips. I think we've got room for one more thing. I smiled and kissed him. His lips parted eagerly, like he'd been holding back all night and no longer had to. His hand found my waist, pulling me closer with a quiet hunger that made the air hum between us. I kissed him harder, deeper, wanting to taste how much he wanted me. Mark didn't say anything, but I felt his eyes on us, watching, waiting. Bill's shirt felt soft beneath my fingers, but I didn't waste time with it. My hands moved swiftly, unbuttoning it as our mouths stayed locked. The fabric parted with a quiet whisper, and I let it fall to the floor. My palms traced his chest, warm skin, strong lines, and I felt him breathe out like he'd been holding his breath since I opened the door earlier. He looked down at me like I was undoing him, piece by piece. And I was. I kissed my way down slowly now, my lips following the path I intended to claim. My hands moved lower, tugging and teasing until there was nothing left between us. He stood still, jaw tight, eyes following every movement, like he couldn't believe this was happening. I knelt in front of him, letting my lips continue what my hands had already started. He made a sound, soft, not quite a word, just a breath that caught in his throat. His hand found my hair, fingers weaving through it with slow, unsure strokes. I didn't rush. I took my time, letting each movement speak for me. When I looked up, I saw Mark watching. His lips were parted, his chest rising rapidly. I didn't stop kissing Bill, but I held Mark's gaze and smiled. That was all it took. He stood slowly, walked over and paused beside us, close enough for me to feel his heat. I shifted where I knelt between them, just enough to bring one hand to Mark, while my lips stayed on Bill. The pace changed, less careful now, more instinctive, as I gave each of them what they silently desired. I let Mark feel what I had shared with Bill, then turned back with a grin that seemed to suck the air out of the room. A kiss here, a stroke there. Hands moving, lips following, breaths tangled in the air. They stood over me, waiting, barely steady, each offering more. With every second, I kept going, soaking it in, craving more. I had passed the point of waiting, and it was Bill who moved first. His hands came to my waist, firm and sure. In one swift motion, he pulled me upright, our mouths meeting mid-air. Before I could catch my breath, he swept me into his arms like I weighed nothing, like I was already his to carry. He didn't speak, just turned toward the couch and started walking. Bill sat down heavily, pulling me with him as though he couldn't bear to let go. His hand stayed on my waist, fingers twitching against my skin as I hovered above him, still caught in the pulse of what we'd just started. Behind me, I heard Mark's steps, slow, deliberate. He didn't say anything, but the sound of his approach was all I needed. Then I felt him. His hands touched my hips, warm and sure, and he guided me forward. I followed without hesitation, resting my palms against Bill's arms, bracing where he held me steady. My body folded into his hands anchoring me, one sliding up my back, the other low on my waist. Mark's breath found me first, low and close, and then his lips followed, tracing a path down my spine, leaving warmth wherever they passed. He didn't rush, he teased, but I was already arching, pressing back into him. My knee burned with the need to move. He shifted behind me, one hand guiding me higher as his body aligned with mine. Then his grip tightened. He closed the space between us, slow and quiet, until the tension within me pulsed like a held breath. My breath caught as his weight settled behind me. I gasped into Bill's chest. My fingers curled where I gripped him. Bill stroked my back as though steadying me through the crash. Mark didn't rush. His movements were purposeful, deliberate, like a slow tide drawing me in. I met him, chased him, hungry for the closeness, for the build-up, for the way each breath deepened the ache. Bill's hand slipped into my hair. The other held my waist. He breathed against my cheek, whispering things I barely caught, things I didn't need to understand to feel. I didn't know how long it lasted, but I knew I didn't want it to stop. Before I could beg for more, Mark's breath hitched and he pulled away. Was hooked. He was still watching me like ChatGPT's gazelle. I felt the warmth of him diminish, the air shift, and then Bill opened his arms. I turned toward him and carefully climbed into his lap, lowering myself with deliberate slowness. My knees sank into the cushion on either side of him, and I guided myself down with a breath that trembled through my whole body. My hands found his chest, fingers spreading wide, grounding myself as I settled inch by inch. He groaned into my neck as I positioned myself. I stayed there, just breathing, just shaking, before I began to move. I set the pace, grounded and eager. Each rise and fall was intentional, as if I could etch him into my skin. His hand slipped under my shirt, trailing up my back, pulling me closer with each motion beneath me. I heard Mark before I saw him, his breath steady and near. Then he joined us on the couch. I reached for him instinctively, my mouth parting, one hand finding him in time with the rest of me. I leaned into him as Bill supported me from behind, my lips pressing to Mark's skin with a desire that needed no invitation. He cupped my face as I leaned in, his breath catching in waves. Below me, Bill groaned and pulled me down harder, guiding the movement of our bodies together. I mirrored them both, shifting my body, breath shared, pulses racing, the lines between us dissolving. We moved in sync, breaths tangled, pulses rising, boundaries gone, drawn into the same escalating storm. And I wasn't finished, not even close. I didn't even notice when the room grew quiet. It wasn't the peaceful kind. It was the charged kind. The kind that buzzes in the air just before something breaks. Bill was still beneath me, his palms on my hips, his breath warm against my collarbone. I moved slow and steady, chasing each sound he made. Then I felt Mark behind me, again, closer, steady. I turned my head just enough to catch the look in his eyes. There was no hesitation, only focus, hunger, tempered with control. Bill looked up at me, and at that moment, I sensed something unspoken pass between them, like a signal. Then they acted. Bill shifted his grip, grounding me. Mark's fingers returned to my waist, sure, careful, ready. My breath caught before anything else could happen. I froze, not from fear, but because my body already knew, and it craved it. Mark pressed forward, his chest brushing my back, his voice low in my ear. Breathe. I did. He aligned with me, slow, deliberate, unhurried. The pressure came fast, intense, building with every second as he drew closer. My hands gripped Bill's shoulders, my lips parting. A sound escaped, drawn from somewhere too deep to name. Bill murmured something I couldn't catch, his arms holding me steady, while Mark adjusted behind me. And then they were both there, one anchoring me, the other answering the ache. My body hung between them, folded, surrounded, overwhelmed. They gave me a beat, maybe two, before they began. Not fast, not rough, just enough to leave me weightless. They slipped into a rhythm that wasn't polished. It was better, real. One eased forward while the other slowed. Then they switched, then moved together, just enough to make my breath sharp and send heat spinning through me. I couldn't keep up. My mind quieted. My fingers searched blindly. Bill's chest, Mark's wrist, the edge of the cushion beneath my knees. I reached for anything, but there was no grounding when they had me like this. The way they worked together wasn't forceful. It was about timing, balance, a steady pull and a grounding push. Every inhale pulled me further, until all I could feel was the brink of something ready to break. Bill's mouth was at my neck now, his exhale hot, his grip unyielding. Mark's voice again. You're doing so good. And I believed him. I could feel it in how he gave me space when I needed it. Only to rebuild the tension seconds later, I was burning. Dampness spread across my back. My legs trembled so intensely, I barely noticed when they lifted me slightly. Tighter, closer, more. My spine arched between them, their bodies tightening around me until I couldn't move. I could only feel, and I felt everything. The slide of their touch, the rhythm of their breaths, the heat between us. Tension, skin, nothing left hidden. I was trembling. I was coming undone. I didn't speak, didn't call their names until I did. "Don't stop," I whispered, barely more than air. "Come, please." And then it happened. That final moment, when everything inside me broke. I was theirs. My body jolted between them, overtaken by something I couldn't hold back. My head dropped, my hands slipped, and I surrendered. The sounds that escaped weren't delicate. They rushed out, shaky, raw, unfiltered. They stayed with me, holding each movement until I gave in completely. Bill supported my hips. Mark steadied my shoulders. And together, they carried me through every wave. I collapsed into them, breathless, undone. And they were still there, constant, grounded, like the whole world had narrowed down to just us. We didn't speak. We didn't need to. That moment stayed with me. Not just what they did, but how they did it. No hesitation, no waiting, just total surrender all the way through. "Be honest," he asked. "Do you wish you were there too?" He gave me a night with more than just him, and everything changed after that. Now it's my turn to give back, and I brought 2 women. Let's dive in. I was still gasping when he collapsed beside me. Both of us soaked in sweat, skin flushed, hearts pounding, like we'd just run through fire. My thighs twitched. My breath hitched. Half shock, half satisfaction. I couldn't even speak. I just turned my head and stared at him. Wide-eyed, stunned, like, what just happened? He looked over at me with that cocky little grin, chest rising fast, and kissed my shoulder. I grinned. It's been like that every night lately. He chuckled under his breath. Honestly, I didn't think it could get better between us, but somehow it has. It really has. I whispered, dragging my nails gently down his back. Ever since that night, he looked at me, a small smile pulling at the corner of his mouth. "That night when you surprised both of us?" I gave him a slow smile. "Surprised you how?" He laughed. "By doing something most wives would never even consider." I smirked. Married, glowing, and maybe just getting started. We both laughed softly, but then his voice dropped. "You know, I was scared before we did it, right? I kept thinking, what if it changes you? What if something gets lost between us?" I watched him closely. "Do I look like I've changed?" He didn't hesitate. "Yeah, for the better." That pulled a real smile out of me, because he was right. I had changed, not in the way most men fear. I felt stronger, sexier, more in tune with myself, and somehow we'd gotten even closer through it. I kissed him, slow and certain, letting him feel it. "You freed me." And the way he stared at me like he was trying to memorize this new version of me told me he was hooked. He was still watching me like I could have vanished with the blink of his eye. I smiled, drawing myself in closer, resting my chin on his chest. He hummed, running a hand through my hair. "You've been glowing all week," he said. "Should I be concerned? Are you already wanting more of that?" I rolled my eyes, laughing. "God, men. You think if a woman enjoys something once, it means she's hooked on it forever?" He raised an eyebrow. "Well, when it comes to that," he said, "I think it's a fair assumption." I traced circles on his skin with my fingertip. "You really think I'm that selfish?" I asked. He paused. "Wait, what do you mean?" I looked up at him, a slow smile forming. I had my turn. He blinked. No. Yes, I replied, tilting my head. He sat up slightly. You're serious? I nodded. Remember that coworker you always pretend not to notice during my video calls? His eyes widened. You mean the one with the red lipstick? Mm-hmm, I said, biting my bottom lip. I've talked to her. He stared at me like I had just broken the rules of marriage. She's curious, I continued. Open-minded. And she's bringing a friend. He opened his mouth, then shut it again, completely stunned. I leaned in and whispered near his ear. I was going to surprise you, but since the secret's out, you might as well start getting ready for tomorrow night. By the time evening came, everything was set. The lighting dim, soft music in the background, wine glasses half full. I was on the couch with them, legs crossed, voice calm, but my heart was racing beneath it all. We had kept the conversation light. They were curious, maybe nervous, but willing. That was enough. Then I heard the front door. He walked in and everything shifted. His footsteps slowed. I watched him take in the warm light, the two women beside me, the way we all turned our heads toward him. He froze. I stood up slowly and smiled. Hey, you. He glanced between us, his eyes narrowing. So, this is it? One of them stood first, tall, confident, with red lipstick sharp as ever. She extended her hand, not breaking eye contact. I'm Renee, she said smoothly. You probably know me from her calls. I've noticed you too. The other woman followed, a step behind, offering only a quiet smile. Lily, I'm just, along for the ride. He nodded, still processing what was happening. I walked over and let my fingers trace down his arm as I leaned in. No nerves, no pressure, just letting it happen. Then I reached back and took Renee's hand in mine. Come on, I said, leading the way down the hallway, bare feet on the hardwood. 3 shadows trailed behind me. Just before I opened the bedroom door, I turned around, tugged him closer by the front of his shirt, and kissed him slowly, confidently, with the women watching from behind him. I whispered, just loud enough for them all to hear. Have fun, baby. You've earned this. He glanced at me for a heartbeat, as if needing permission. I gave it with a smile. Renee kissed him first, steady and confident, while her hands worked at his shirt, unbuttoning it effortlessly. Lily hovered close behind her fingers tracing his back, helping him out of his sleeves. They undressed him slowly, like unwrapping a gift they both desired. When his shirt hit the floor, Lily pressed a kiss just below his collarbone. Renee followed, planting soft kisses down his chest as her hands moved to his belt. He was tense but not resisting, more like trying to absorb it all. The women helped themselves next, slipping out of their tops, each in her own style. Renee bold and unapologetic. Lily more reserved, but just as eager. Then they dropped to their knees together in front of him. From where I sat, the view was mesmerizing. They moved in perfect rhythm. Renee's lips teased his chest, while Lily lingered lower, her touch precise and gentle. There was no talking, only the sound of shared breaths, the tension tightening with every movement. His hands gripped the sheets, his jaw slack, eyes flickering toward me like he couldn't believe I was really watching it all. But I was. I saw everything. The way his breath caught, how his hips twitched, how his fingers trembled. They held him in that space between surrender and bliss. Minutes passed like seconds. Then Renee rose slowly, placed one palm on his chest, and eased him down onto the mattress. She climbed over him with calm, steady control, her gaze never leaving his as she began to move. Each movement was deliberate, like she'd been waiting all night for this moment and wanted to savor it. As her body found its rhythm against his, I saw the disbelief, the pleasure, and the awe on his face, all tangled together. Renee didn't hesitate. She guided her hips into a slow, steady rhythm. The moment she settled over him, one hand braced on his chest, the other tangled in his hair, he let out a sound, half gasp, half groan, his body jolting beneath her, unprepared for how much this would demand from him. She smiled, clearly pleased. Her pace remained deliberate at first, drawing each breath from him in a way he couldn't catch. His hands gripped the edge of the bed, like it was the only thing keeping him anchored to the moment. Lily leaned in from the side, her lips brushing his chest. Her voice low and intimate, as she whispered something that made his body react. I bit my lip, shifting in the chair, but my focus didn't waver. My hand slipped between my thighs before I realized I had moved, but I didn't stop. I let the tension build in me, mirroring the way it built in him. Renee gradually increased her rhythm, her back arching as she moved with more force, more control. She wasn't just riding the moment, she was owning it. Lily positioned herself along his side again, her lips trailing kisses across his ribs, his stomach, lower. Every place her lips touched drew a reaction, a twitch, a breath caught too fast to control. Between each breath, between each shift of Renee's body, his eyes kept finding me. I was the only thing keeping him anchored, and I never looked away. I wanted him to see himself the way I saw him, lost, overwhelmed, consumed. My fingers moved in slow circles, applying pressure that mirrored what I imagined he was feeling. I was in tune with them now, each pulse in the room vibrating through me, humming softly in my stomach, sharp behind my ribs. Renee leaned back, moving with more intensity, her hands pressing flat against his chest to stabilize herself. She maintained control, never hurried, never uncertain, just steady, deep waves of movement that pushed him beyond anything I'd witnessed before. Lily's hand remained on his body the entire time, gently stroking any part that wasn't being held or moved. Her touch was subtle but consistent, a reminder that he was completely surrounded. Then it happened. His body tensed, all at once. His back arched, and a sound escaped from him, raw and hoarse, as if it had torn from deep within him. Renee stayed with him, slowing the rhythm just enough to guide him back from the brink. Lily placed a soft kiss on his shoulder as his chest rose and fell beneath them. I exhaled slowly, my hands slipping away as my heart raced. I stood and crossed the room, taking one step at a time until I was next to him. He looked up, his eyes unfocused, lips parted, sweat glistening on his forehead like he'd just run miles without stopping. I leaned over, brushed my hand across his chest, and whispered just above his lips. The night has only just begun, and I haven't had my turn yet. Be honest. Do you wish you were in his position tonight?